Yeah, we're good. Whenever you guys are
Okay.
good.
When you were growing up playing youth sports, what type of impact did your coaches have on you as both a person and an athlete?
Oh, my coaches had a huge impact, and they were my inspiration for wanting to be a coach. Coaches have tremendous influence over the athletes that they work with, and they're the role model for which young athletes model their lives as well as their athletic games.
How important is it to have fun when you're working with the kids, and how do you get that across to the kids?
Well, first of all, it's a game, and everybody should have fun. The coach, the players, the parents. Oftentimes we put too much emphasis on winning instead of having fun. And the funny thing about that is the more fun you have, the better you'll play. And fun is not about goofing off or anything like that. Fun is about enjoying playing with your teammates, enjoying the process of improving, enjoying competition, because it gets you in great shape and provides you with a very healthy life.
When you mentioned winning, what role does winning play in youth sports when coaches have to deal with all these other aspects when they're working with young kids?
Well, everything in life is about competition, and winning is a part of that. You want to strive to be the best that you can be in everything you do, and winning plays an important role in teaching you that, but so does losing. You can often learn more in a loss than you can in a win. It should help focus you on the areas that you need to improve in, the areas you need to work on to be better, and you compete not just with the opponent, but with yourself to be the best that you can be.
I know a lot of volunteer coaches are busy. They go from work to practice. Maybe they don't plan out their practice. How important is it to kind of plan and have an idea what you want to do before you get there with a group of kids looking at you?
I know at the Division I level, if we're not prepared for practice, practice isn't going to be very good. So it's very, very important, number one, to develop a good routine for practice so that you know exactly what you're going to be working on, how you're going to be working on it, how long you want to be working at it. We often talk about duration, intensity, and frequency. Frequency, how often we're going to practice; intensity, how hard we're going to practice; and duration, how long we're going to practice. And if you stay focused on those three things in your preparation, you should have a good practice each and every day.
How does a coach create an atmosphere where the kids look forward to coming instead of dreading, like, oh, geez, I got to go to practice today?
Well, I think the most important thing to create the right culture is to create a positive atmosphere. We use a 5-step teaching method to help our players. The first is explanation. The second step is demonstration. Third step is imitation. Fourth step is correction. And the fifth step is repetition. But the most important thing in all of those categories is to stay positive. When we say correction, we're not talking about criticism. We're talking about very, very helpful advice. And it's very, very important for kids to receive that information in a positive way so they stay positive.
How can coaches use goal setting to help kids kind of build and progress during the year?
Well, we believe goals are very, very important, short-range goals and long-range goals. With our long-range goals, we often use the expression, begin with the end in mind. So when we begin a season, we want to think and plan for where we want to be and how good we need to be by the end of the season. Short-range goals then are the goals we set each and every day, each and every week, and each and every month to eventually reach that goal at the end of the season. And so we have goals for our shooting, ball handling, rebounding, all the fundamentals. And when an athlete sees himself improving in the fundamentals, they enjoy that. It encourages them, it motivates them, it inspires them to do more, to get better and better. And it's up to the coach to motivate and inspire the athletes so that they feel good about themselves. You're trying to build self-esteem and confidence so that they're doing things that they feel good about.
Good. So many kids, I think, at the young ages are so afraid to fail that every mistake is catastrophic in their mind. How does a volunteer help these kids understand that's just a part of everything?
Well, actually, failure is a major part of success. because you learn from your mistakes. And the quicker you learn from your mistakes, the better you become. But no matter how good you become, nobody's perfect, so you're constantly going to be making mistakes throughout your life, and hopefully the lessons you'll learn from those mistakes will help you be more successful.
I think coaches, it's natural sports, they get excited during games, but how do they decide what is too much where it kind of crosses the line where it becomes maybe bothersome to the kids on the floor too?
Okay, ask that again, because I'm not sure what you're asking.
Sometimes coaches they get excited during the game.
Emotions?
Sometimes, yeah, emotions, but then maybe how do they temper it so it doesn't carry over too far, it becomes a distraction to their young kids?
Well, the first thing is it is important to have energy and enthusiasm because that will create better effort throughout a practice and a game. But what we tell our players all the time, what eventually wins is poise. People who can keep their head about them when everybody else is losing theirs. So you want to remain cool, calm, and collected. You want to stay poised so that you can execute at the highest level possible in every stressful, competitive situation.
A lot of young kids show up at youth programs, they don't have confidence, they have low self-esteem. Can a coach in his position use sports as a tool to help build kids up?
Oh, absolutely. We have a youth program called Cane Nation, and what we tell our players who coach these young kids who come to town to be sure they feel good about themselves. We've run this program since I started as a head coach back in 1986, and one of our campers developed great self-esteem from the program because his coach, who is now one of my assistant coaches, Michael Uger, did a great job of patting him on the back and telling him how good he was doing, despite the fact that he was very big and out of shape initially. But with all the compliments and feeling good about himself and feeling like he could accomplish more than anybody thought possible, he got himself in great shape and was a very productive player.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, kids take losses hard. How does a coach make sure that that one game or one bad day doesn't, ruin the entire season for the kid?
Well, the challenge for a coach is to try to get his team to play consistently well, doing little things day after day. And even though you may do those things consistently well, it doesn't mean you're going to do them perfectly. And some nights the other team might just be having a better night than you have. And if you lose, you've got to regroup your team and let them know, hey, one loss is not a season, and we can learn from it and move on.
How does a coach teach teamwork? Because I think a lot of young kids, they want to be the leading scorer on the team. They want to be that star when maybe that's not their role. How do you get that concept across to young kids?
Well, teamwork is not about doing big things well. Teamwork is about doing a lot of little things well, doing little things well each and every day. And knowing your role on the team really helps you to play well. If your coach is asking you to be the leading scorer and to take all the shots, you might relish that position. But if the coach is asking you to come in off the bench and be a defensive stopper or a rebounder, it's very, very important you fall in love with your role, that you do the best job you can at executing your role, because that's what your teammates are going to respect you for, that's what your coaches are going to respect you for, and that's the best way to earn more responsibility and expand your role. But the first thing you have to do is execute that role.
How do you teach kids sportsmanship? Because I see so many bad examples of it, especially even in their own youth games, the way parents behave in the stands.
Well, in our philosophy, we preach three things. One, we want all of our players to have a positive attitude and to bring that positive attitude to practice and to games every day. Second, we want them to make a total commitment, meaning be the best that you can be in everything you do. But the third thing is to always behave in a first-class manner, to take great pride in who you are and who you represent, because you don't just represent yourself. You represent your family, your friends, your church, your community, your team, your university, whoever you're playing for. You want to be a great role model for them. You want them to take great pride in saying, you play for us.
Now, when a volunteer coach starts the year, he's got 10 or 12 kids who he's probably never met before. How does he make those special connections with each kid so it's a memorable season for the child?
I think the first thing that a coach should do is be sure he knows the names of every one of his players and be sure they know what they should call him, whether it be Coach so-and-so or by your first name or Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so, so that you immediately develop a connection with all your players. And then the most important thing is communicate, to talk with them, get to know them, learn who they are and what they're all about, learn them as an athlete and as a person. And the better you get to know them, the better you can communicate with them, the more they will respect you, and the better they will play for you.
How do you deal with the parents of the kids who think their child is the superstar, should get all the minutes, should get all the plays called for them? How do you deal with that side of it?
Well, all parents have a bias towards their own child, and that's a very natural thing. One of the most important things is for every parent to realize all the other kids on the team have parents that feel exactly as they do. And for your son or daughter to enjoy the process and learn from the process, they need to learn teamwork, because eventually, no matter what walk of life they choose to pursue, they're going to be a part of a bigger team. And there's not so much superstars as there is people working together to accomplish a goal.
How do you motivate kids and figure out what works for each individual child?
Yeah, each individual child is different. Their personalities are different, and what motivates them is different. And that's why it's so important to communicate with them and learn them. Learn their personality, learn what they enjoy, learn what they don't like, learn how to motivate them in a very positive way. Some kids need a pat on the back, other kids need a kick in the rump. And they don't need that physically, but sometimes they just need to know that the coach is going to demand them to be at their best. And they do better when the coach is very demanding.
I think it was a Sports Illustrated article that kind of talked about how you use positive visualization. Is that something a volunteer coach can do and kind of work with kids about to help them?
Oh, absolutely. Visualization is a very important part of being successful in any business. If you're an architect or a builder and you're going to build a house, you don't just start building the house. First, you have to have architectural drawings. You got to visualize what you're building before you ever put pen to paper. As a basketball coach or as a coach of any sport, visualizing what you want your team to accomplish, visualizing what the player can play like, should help the player learn how to visualize himself. See themselves shooting the basketball, dribbling the basketball, defending the basketball, rebounding the basketball. You can ask your players to close their eyes and dream about how they want to play, because the mind is a very, very mysterious organ, and it can help you prepare to execute something during a game that all you ever did was picture it in your own mind as to how it should happen. A great example is free throw shooting in basketball. Before you ever go to the foul line, you should have visualized yourself being successful over and over again. Actually create the emotion that you feel when you go to the foul line. See yourself relaxed, cool, calm, collected, a lot of composure, going to the foul line, having a routine that you follow, and then you make the free throw. And you see that over and over again. That's why kids playing in the park or in their driveway will oftentimes use the end of a game and say 5, 4, 3, 2, and just as they say 1, they launch a shot. That's visualization, because they're seeing themselves dreaming about being in a game where they have to take the game-winning shot and make it.
Along with that tool, is there anything else, like if the child's really struggling with their shot, shots just aren't going down, how do you work with that child without maybe making them feel like, wow, I've got problems because I'm getting all the special attention too?
Well, each individual is different. Some athletes will just need more personal attention from the coach, more practice to get more comfortable and confident. Others actually need to be distracted and not think about shooting anymore because they're overthinking the play. There's a book written by Timothy Galway called The Inner Game of Tennis. And in his book, he describes that you have two minds. Your first mind is like the slogan Nike, just do it. But that second mind, your subconscious mind, is talking to you all the time, telling you what to do. You got to quiet that mind because you need to just relax and play. And if you have an athlete who's struggling, you got to figure out which one he is. Is he the one that needs more practice, or is he the one that needs to quiet his mind?
Last two questions. A lot of times coaches, when they have a travel team, they find themselves in a position where they have to unfortunately cut kids at a very young age. How does someone handle that job? So I mean, obviously it's devastating, but how do you deal with that when you're working with young children?
Well, for the coach, it's very, very challenging because you don't want to destroy the hopes and dreams of a young athlete. For the athlete, it's even more challenging because it's basically saying you're not good enough. And it's important for the coach to let him know that, like Michael Jordan was cut from his team, he turned out to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time, that maybe he just needs to practice a little bit more. For the parent, it's very, very important to find areas that your child can be successful in. So maybe sports is not the avenue they should be pursuing. Maybe the arts or something else. But for a parent, you need to let your child know, I love you, whether you're the star of the team or you're the one that gets cut.
If you were talking to a group of parents who are going to be coaching youth basketball for the first time this season, what would be the main points you'd want to get across to them before they went out for the season?
I would tell them a couple of things. Number one, keep it very, very simple. Don't try to make it too complicated. Don't try to be the master coach. If you're just introducing a child to a sport, even if it's a youth team where kids have played for 4 or 5 years, you still got to remember to keep things pretty simple. And secondly, to make it fun for them, to allow them to be themselves, to work on improving, not just trying to win the game. I have a lot of friends who are in teaching, and it drives them nuts that they have to teach for the test, a standardized test that the kids have to pass. The difference between true teaching and teaching for the test is like a coach. If you're just teaching to help the kids win, they're missing the big picture. It's all about helping them enjoy themselves, enjoy the process, and continue to improve.
That's good. Sorry, one last question. If you're a parent, what advice would you have for parents who are signing their kids up for youth basketball for the first time? What advice would you have for them going into the season so it's positive for everybody?
Well, I told my wife when we were young parents and our children, our boys, were getting ready to join youth sports, that the most important thing a parent can do is show support, but never criticize. The parent thinks they know better, and unfortunately, there's a conflict between the parent and what the parent is saying to the child and probably what the coach is saying. And whenever there is that conflict, it's very frustrating for their child. The child wants to listen to the coach because that's who they play for. The parent wants the child to listen to them because they think they know better. So it's important you relieve that stress and try to eliminate that frustration and conflict.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Just what we needed. Appreciate your time very much, sir.
You're welcome.